Mobile devices have been around with us for a long time, and we just used to make phone calls on them. But today we walk around with a computer in our pocket with all of our sensitive data on it, and we use it all day long every day. Today we
Mhm.
have with us Craig Taylor of Cyberhoot. Craig, with all that computing power and private data, are smartphones a security risk we should worry about, and what should we consider to keep ourselves protected?
As you might imagine, Shelley, yes, smartphones and mobile devices do contain a lot of data and definitely represent security concerns for each and every one of us. As they get more powerful and contain more data about our personal and our work lives, the risks of a lost or stolen mobile device increase exponentially. So here are some of the primary risks a smartphone represents for us today. And Cyberhoot's put together 8, and we'll summarize at the end all 8 tips for you. But to begin with, let's talk about physical security. If you leave your phone or your tablet behind at a bar or restaurant, what data do you think someone could steal, such as your contacts, your photos, your work information? So, tip number 1 is have important conversations on your smartphone in private rather than in public places. That's a good physical security tip. Number 2, install a remote wipe solution in case you do leave that phone or mobile device on the bar or behind you, or you forget it and it's stolen. Then you can delete all that data remotely. Tip number 3, set an automatic lock and a strong password to unlock your mobile device and require that all your employees you do that on their mobile devices if they're going to have your company data on it. From a software vulnerability perspective, I know Apple has released a number of really important zero-day patches this year, and it's important that all of us keep our mobile devices by operating system and the applications they contain up to date, patched, and ready to go. So, tip number 4 is keep your smartphone and your tablets up to date, both for the operating system and the applications it contains. Moving on to wireless protocols. I read an article recently that hackers, when they had all this free time in COVID, were able to break into a smartphone by doing nothing, with you doing nothing. You clicked on nothing, you did nothing. The only mistake that was you had Bluetooth and Wi Fi protocols enabled. So, tip number 5 is disable Bluetooth and Wi Fi when it's not in use. If you're not using it, just leave it off. It keeps your phone a little bit more secure and safe. The next area of focus for risks that we face on our mobile devices is something I call application bloat. In the old days, when we got a computer from, if you remember the Cow Gateway or Computech, if you remember, you probably nobody knows these companies
No,
anymore.
I do.
They used to ship it with all this software installed out of the gate, and you'd spend an hour or two deleting software and removing it. Application bloat, we called it. Well,
Okay.
today I think there's a race on these mobile devices to compare with one another how many applications you have. And I know I myself need to do a little bit better job of this, but if you have more than 2 or 3 screens of applications, you probably have too many. Each of them is vying for a little bit of your computing power of your mobile device. So it's slowing it down, but it also puts it at risk of compromise. So do what I do. If you haven't used an application in more than a month or two, remove it from the phone. So get rid of that application bloat. The final tips that I have, tips 7 and 8, are around public Wi Fi. You may not know this, but if you just join any old public Wi Fi, it could be a hacker's Wi Fi made to look like the cafe you're at. And if you're joined to that hacker's Wi Fi, they could be listening into your conversation. Anything that's not encrypted, they'll learn and see. So, tip number 7 is limit any and all activities on public Wi Fi. Check with the proprietor that you're joining the correct Wi Fi, that it's not a lookalike Wi-Fi, like free public Wi-Fi or free cafe Wi-Fi. You need to connect to that Starbucks Wi-Fi if that's what you're doing. And finally, tip number 8 is if you do have to do something sensitive like banking or email or business work over the internet, consider getting a virtual private network that encrypts your data right from your mobile device all the way to your office or the internet, to a safe place on the internet, and keeps it away from the prying eyes of a hacker whose Wi-Fi network you might have accidentally connected to. That VPN can provide some really important protection there. So in summary, we have these 8 tips for you. Have private conversations in private. Install remote wipe software to help you out in a loss or theft situation. Make a strong lock requirement for all company employees and an automatic lock after 5 minutes of inactivity. Keep your devices up to date for the operating system and the applications you have. Disable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth when not in use. Uninstall applications you don't use. It'll speed up your phone. You'll like that. Limit your activities when on public Wi-Fi, joining the specific proprietor's Wi-Fi and not just any Wi-Fi. And then tether your tablet, laptop to a VPN if you can, or even your hotspot as an additional tip on your phone, because you're not on the public Wi-Fi, you're on your mobile carrier's Wi-Fi with that tip. Doing these things will keep you safe with mobile device security in the 21st century.